COVID? Is it that people don't believe we have COVID? People just believe, you know what, it's COVID anyway. We should get on with our lives. And then the prime ministers come to say, all right, listen, we're going to lock down.
Yeah.
Do we need a second lockdown? And do we need to uh, continue to raise the awareness that, listen, guys, there's COVID out there. Should we be doing more, to the society?
Absolutely. I think all of those conspiracy theories that came out at the beginning of the pandemic have not helped. There are still people, unfortunately, who don't believe that COVID is real. There are people who believe that even if it really was manufactured in a lab, there are all of those sort of conspiracy theories that many people subscribe to. And unfortunately, I think it's left some level of carelessness. There are people who believe that it's a tool by government to manipulate us as the population and things like that, that all this mask is to prepare us. And, all of those things, they haven't helped. Unfortunately, I think the lockdown is needed again at this point, considering the way the cases are rising. And the thing many people don't seem to recognize is in a pandemic. I barely a month ago, I was having this conversation with somebody who said, at this point, more people are dying from the flu than from COVID. And I said, what you don't realize is that in a pandemic, the death rates go up very quickly. And that's what we're beginning to see. We're now around the range of 300 per day. And that is considering that compared to April, we have better treatment now. We're aware of things that we can now use to treat COVID better than we did in April. Yet we are still having 300 and so people dying. So I actually think that much as the government tried to avoid it, perhaps this lockdown should have happened sooner.
All right, so let's leave COVID now and go back to and let's leave the medical science part, which obviously is your main forte, and just go to something else which you're very passionate about. You are an author and you're also a speaker. Your new book called Value Shift is out. It's out now. Value Shift. What's that, and why have you decided to, so to say, open the eyes of some of us who believe that Africa can never be developed?
Yeah. So Value Shift is in summary. Is a synopsis of my experience of living in Nigeria for about 3 decades and now having been living in the UK for more than a decade. And there were experiences that I went through from making that transition from Nigeria to the UK that were in essence like a shift in value for me. There were certain things I had believed or ways of believing that things should be done, and seeing a different kind of experience here that led me to writing this book. And at some point in time, I sat down and I asked myself, if I was to say in one sentence, what is the main difference between the developed world and the developing world? Obviously using UK as a prototype, but also beyond living in the UK, I've had the opportunity of traveling to other developed countries, and I went to a few other countries in Africa. What would I say is the main difference? I know it's very difficult to put it down in one word, but what is that one thing that sort of permeates all around the system that we see as development? And at the end of the day, I came to the conclusion that it's all about value systems. That value systems in the developed world, and compare and contrast to that of the developing world, is what distinguishes. It's not the economy, it's not even the history, even things like colonization. In my book, I talk about all these other things that we have used as excuses or reasons for our lack of development over the years. I find that they do play a role, but ultimately, the reason we have failed to make the progress that we should make is because we have some value systems that keep us as developing nations. And so this book is about sharing some of those value systems that I have encountered in this system here in the UK to see how that can be introduced to a country like Nigeria and other African countries to help us develop. However, I call the book Learning from the Best of Two Worlds. It's not always been a one-way street. From living in the UK, I can also clearly see some values that a country like the UK could learn from developing countries to be able to even be better. So I share some of those values also in the book.
Hmm. And how has the transition been for you? I mean, for people watching, obviously you schooled in Nigeria I mean, transition from being a person from Nigeria, like you said, you lived about 3 decades in Nigeria before coming here. How's the transition been for you um, to being a GP qualified GP here, to having a practice of your own as a GP partner? I mean, for people watching, and especially for people in Nigeria watching and thinking, "Oh my God, I think I'm in the medical line, and I'm thinking about probably for the betterment of myself or my family, I want to do that." So, how's the transition been for you?
It's not been a smooth sail all the way, but I would admit that I, from the stories of others that I've heard, I would consider myself to have been lucky in the way it went. But it does take time. Is one of the first things I would say. I think I would say that I pretty much got to close to 5 years before I really started to feel settled in this country. And I thought to myself, maybe there's a reason why the UK Home Office waits for 5 years to give you settlement, because maybe it's not that long for you to really settle. It took me
Yeah.
nearly that long. But the things that have helped along the way, I think, is having the right sort of information and advice from those who have gone ahead. I think if you're lucky to find somebody who truly wants you to learn from their experience to avoid the mistakes that they've made, that always helps. And I benefited from that, and I am now also giving back in that way because I knew how much that did for me. But the other thing is to be